to episode 138 of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. The date today is Monday, January the 24th, 2022, 6:09 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Dave McRae, coming to you live from the VoiceMann Studios in Toronto, Canada. He's Tony Michael in Atlanta, Georgia. And tonight is episode 2 of What If Scenarios, talking about the Bandaged Michael Myers mask from Halloween 4. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live! We are live. Halloween 4, the return of Michael Myers. What if that bandaged mask, they kept it? What if they kept it? What if they kept it?
What if, Dave?
What if? Tony Michael, good to see you again. How are you on this Monday, January the 24th?
I am doing freaking fantastic. How are you doing on this Monday? How's Canada doing right now, man? I'm hearing the highways are a little tight these past few days. I was thinking of you.
Oh, yeah, big protest. You mean from the truckers? Is that what you mean?
The truckers and
the
all
truckers,
that
yeah, big
like
protest.
You said, I was expecting you to be out there nude, going. Yeah!
I was out there. I was out there running nude. I was nude out there taking shits all over the place. It was great. It was.
That'd been great.
It'd be gross. It'd be freezing. It's like 5 degrees Fahrenheit here right now. So. Listen, Halloween 4, the return of Michael Myers. Now, this is interesting because, this was the return of Michael Myers. There had been a 7-year gap. There had not been a Michael Myers movie between 1981 and 1988. And, I hate to... most Halloween fans, I think, have come to, well, if you're old enough, if you're our age and older, you remember this. If you are a bit younger, maybe in your teens or your 20s, you won't remember this, and maybe you've just been told this, but this is true. And this isn't to, upset any little Halloween fanboys, but this is just the reality of it, is that Michael Myers was virtually non-existent in the 1980s. Nobody gave a shit about it. In terms of pop culture presence, in terms of embedding himself, into the zeitgeist and merchandising and video games and toys and masks and this kind of stuff, Michael Myers just wasn't around. When he died, quote unquote, in 1981, Halloween 2, that was it. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, was 1982, and then that was it. Freddy and Jason ruled the 1980s. Between 1982, essentially, and 88, there was no Michael Myers. That was it. It was Freddy and Jason and Freddy. They were the kings of the slasher films of the 1980s. And by the time the return of Michael Myers came around, the slasher subgenre, the golden age of slashers, of course, is the late 70s, early to mid 80s. The slasher subgenre was beginning to dip. It was on its decline. I'm not saying it was completely gone. I'm just saying that its peak, it was on its trajectory downwards by 1988. And of course, by the time the early 90s hit, it was virtually not really there anymore. And then it was reinvented and revigorated in 1996 by Scream. So, but Halloween 4, in the world of Halloween, in the world of slasher movies, was, I believe, was a modest success. It was a box office success, quote unquote. I mean, it's not like, box office numbers today, but, you look at the budget, you look how much it made. It was like, oh, this is pretty good. This is good. Good enough for Mustafa Akkad to say, let's do another one. And they did. They greenlit another one and started getting down to work to release it the next year. And of course, we know what happened after that. But Halloween 4, the return of Michael Myers, reintroduced Michael Myers. He survived the fire. Come on. But he did, apparently. He's been in a coma for 10 years. Come on. But he was. And he escapes. And he's wrapped to the gills. He looks like a mummy because obviously he was burned and had all these burns all over him. And then he finds what is a Dawn Post William Shatner mask. And it looks a little more like a mime and a mannequin and not quite what Tommy Lee Wallace did with the original, of course, but nonetheless, there it is, and he uses that. And this mask has forever been made fun of. I've made fun of it. You've made fun of it, Tony. We've all made fun of it. It's not the best. It's not the best because we're so used to this iconic look from the first two movies. But here we are with this mask, and then, of course, we know what happens after that. But the real question is, in today's What If episode, what if... and I'll pass it over to Tony here. What if they did not use the mask in Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers? I mean, you could say, what if they just use a really good mask? Yeah, ideally. But what if they didn't do it? What if they scrapped the mask? Because remember, yes, in hindsight, looking back on the series, the mask is iconic. It's iconic now. But I think in 1988, you only had two Michael Myers movies. Michael was not as popular as Jason, not as popular as Freddy. I think you may have been able to get away with sleight of hand, slipping another look in there for Michael, just like you did with Jason in Friday the 13th Part 3, because the look wasn't quite, you know what I'm saying? And maybe have ran with it. What if they ran with the bandaged look of Michael Myers? What if they did that? Now, that doesn't mean that through the subsequent sequels he had to remain that way. But what if through Halloween 4, that's what he did? He's bandaged up, you can't see anything, and that's the way he looked. And throughout the rest of the movie, the bandages got dirtier and dirtier, and maybe some of it started to fall off a little bit or something. I don't know. Tony, what do you think about that?
I think it would have been a smart decision, probably even a better decision, because at that point, you have to remember in 1988, Myers' identity with the mask isn't really that established. I mean, because even though 1 and 2 are two separate movies, everything happens on one night. So it's right. I count 1 and 2 in that original run of the timeline as one long movie.
Yeah.
So he's only wearing the iconic 78 mask in one film. You know what I mean?
For all intents and purposes, yeah.
For all intents and purposes, right?
Yeah,
till he gets burned wearing it at the end of Part 2. So the mask is irrelevant by the time 4 rolls around. Okay, because 3 Season of the Witch.
And sorry to interrupt, I just want to say it burned. It burned. So
there's no need. In my thinking is like, why does Michael, I mean, okay, you're obviously going for an identity thing here in the 80s, like Jason, okay, Jason's got the hockey mask.
Yeah.
So I understand why they went down that road. But if it was the 80s and they decided to keep the bandages, I don't think it possibly could have even been better. And from a narrative point of view would make sense because one, we're to believe that this is a man who survived a fire. So obviously his face being bandaged up would make sense.
Yeah.
Him finding a mask that looks similar to what he wore originally in 78 doesn't make sense because what are the odds of you going into a Halloween shop? I mean, for the time, remember back in 1988. Okay.
Yeah.
Nowadays you're going to see Myers mask everywhere, but that was, you and I both know that was not like this in the 80s at all. Yeah. I still got my Don Post freaking crappy mask that I wore all the way through the 80s and early 90s.
Dude, I had mine up until about 10 years or so ago. I took it out of the box. I'll never part
with that. It was my first one.
But it had decayed. It had decayed. So I had to chuck it.
Yeah, I have mine preserved. It's in a bag. And I've actually brought it out on the show a while back. It's on one of our older episodes. I mean, it's got some, miles on it, but I'll never part with that. And that's what we had. That's all we had. So, but anyways, my point is in 1988, in the series, his identity with the mask, it's not been that established yet. So if you go down the road of the bandage, it makes sense. He burned in a fire. This is all he's got. And there's a lot you can do with that, especially from a creep point of view. You throw blood on there, you throw dirt on there as the mask is progressing throughout the movie. It doesn't, or the mask, the bandages, it doesn't need to stay white like we see him in the garage there initially, when he kills what's that garage guy's name? I can't remember his name, but anyway,
I can't remember the guy's name, but I know who you're talking about.
And then you know, by the time, and then there was a really cool photo. Well, I shouldn't say it's cool. A nice attempt that I sent Dave of someone putting bandages on Michael during the rooftop stalking scene,
right?
Michael stalking Rachel, and it looks cool. It gives Michael a different perspective, a different look. From a narrative point of view, it makes sense. You know, like, why does he need to have the mask? I mean, we know now because we're coming at it from the franchise's identity. You know what I mean? The mask is the franchise. And I get that. I'm not saying that I get rid of it. No, but if they had done this in the 80s, it wouldn't have mattered. People wouldn't people wouldn't care today because they go, okay, that's what he was rocking in part 4.
Right.
And it would not make sense. I mean, like you said, you could have a moment where he finds something similar, whether it's see, I mean, they forgot to take out the hair, but like what Dave's holding up there.
Well, I just held it up.
I'm on a delay. I'm on a massive delay.
Well, it's because you're watching the.
Because I got the thing.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I was like, wow, I'm on a huge delay.
No.
The hell?
No, you're good. You're good. But here, here. I'll put it up again, and then you can hang on a sec here. Okay, now it's up again. Oh, wait, let me get your name out of there. Okay, there we go. Now you can talk about it again. It's up.
Yeah, I mean, so like you're seeing, and now obviously Dave's showing it through his phone. You're not getting the clear image on the computer like you would. But if you Photoshop the hair out, which that person forgot to do, it's an interesting look. It's you know what I mean? And again, in 1988, I don't think people would have made that.
That's a good point. They did forget to Photoshop the hair out. That's a good point.
You can kind of see the hair off the rim light there in the background.
Yeah, here.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So, I mean, creative, whoever did that's creative.
Yeah.
And it does sort of give you an idea of what it would have looked like.
That's right.
You know what I mean? I think at that point in the movie where he's on the roof chasing Rachel.
We've all seen that one.
We've all seen that where he's got some blood on it. It's got some dirt on it. And you start adding more of that as the movie progressed, like on the rooftop there. I thought the rooftop photo was a little bit more, it was too clean. But if you had dirtied it up a little bit, it's a fucking interesting look. That's a different
cool shot,
That's a really cool shot. You know what I mean? And the blank, pale, emotionless face. It's still that. You know what I mean? So I think had they gone down that route in 1988, it wouldn't matter. Today, we wouldn't care because that's the way the franchise would have went. And we wouldn't be having this discussion on like, what if we would be having the discussion, what if they had brought the mask back? You know what I mean? It would basically be reversed. And I think fans would have accepted it as is, I mean, if you ever get a chance to do like a shoot or something or pictures, or if you ever wrap yourself up in bandages, you can get creative with a bandage look. You really can. And it can be creepy.
And what's cool about it too is that it's like you said, and you bring up a very good point. It's hard for a lot of people, and I understand this, to again look back in retrospect and not see the Myers mask as iconic because it's so iconic now. And not that it wasn't well known then, but remember in 1981. There was no internet. There was no social media. Okay. No. Nobody knew that was a Shatner mask. That didn't come out till years later, probably in a Fangoria magazine and then of course with the internet and all that kind of shit, then it really caught, nobody knew this stuff. It's hard to look at it from a certain perspective, but it's true. So although he had the mask, and yes, that was an awesome look and it was creepy and eerie, and certainly you want something to replicate that with, the mask was burned. So for him to not have the mask, it's properly motivated. It's not like he just suddenly, it's a new movie and he suddenly doesn't have the mask anymore. You would question, well, where did the mask go? That doesn't make any sense, right? It doesn't make any sense at all, but it's properly motivated. It burned in a fire. There's no reason to believe that the mask was made of, iron or something like that. It's a latex mask. Of course it's going to burn. It makes perfect sense. And to have him just continue the rest of the movie in those bandages, it's a creepy look. It looks really, really creepy, really eerie. So why not just roll with it? Now, I understand why they didn't. That's rhetorical. I get why they didn't. But if I was the production designer or, the director, and I'm looking at these masks that we got, they don't look anything like the one. Now, not that they couldn't have made it to look that way. They could have. But I'm looking at these masks and I would have been like, I'm not like, I'm not digging this. I'm not feeling this. I don't want to use this. Why don't we just use the bandages? Like, do we have to use this? Now, again, that might have been a studio decision. That might have been a Mustafa cut. No, you have to use this. I get why they ended up using it, but the mask wasn't nearly as strong as the original mask. So it does detract. Now, that doesn't mean that if you used the bandages in part 4 or part 5 or what have you, that it would make the movies better.
As like part 5, you could have like part of his face shown. You could see some of the burnt, part of his face, as because as part 4 ends, he falls down a mine shaft.
Right.
I would probably not do the whole river scene at the beginning of part 5 because you don't want to have wet bandages. But you could have it to where the bandages are starting to fall off and he's got like half of his, parts of his face exposed. So you see some of the burnt, because that's the, obviously a huge critique in part 5 is, one, Michael Myers has got fucking hair. I'm like, didn't it get singed off in the fire?
Right. I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. You could do. Yeah.
This is a burn victim here who, has got scarring from, scar tissues on his skin and on his face. So there's a lot of things that you could have done with the character. And then maybe in part 5, as the bandages, he can't keep the bandages on. You see a new, a new mask is introduced.
Right. Exactly.
He finds a new mask or something, whatever. You know what I mean?
Well, I think like for me, I wouldn't have ever showed his face, but what let me try that again. What would have been really cool.
Are you talking about in part 5?
Well,
showing his face?
No, in part 4. Like even then I would never have had the bandages unwrap to show his face or some of his face burn.
Right.
But to your point though, the anticipation of that possibility is cool because you can show bandages maybe starting to fall off and maybe even show him trying to keep it on.
Right. He kind of a little bit of the burn. Not a lot, but maybe like a burn sort of ear or something. And he wraps it back around or something to that degree, so there's always that anticipation. And maybe there's a moment where, and then you get blood on it. It gets dirty. And now what's cool is that the bandages are pretty white, right? Because he's been in the hospital and he's been wrapped. So they're pretty white. But by the time he goes through carnage and shit and the environment, they're fucked up.
They're gonna be, it's gonna be dirty. So now you're gonna have like it weathered, like this grayish sort of stuff. So it's gonna look even
bloodstains.
Yeah. So it's gonna look even cooler then, right? Because it's gonna look more ominous and eerie because now it looks really dark and weathered and gray and all that kind of shit because of the elements. And I don't know. It doesn't mean, look, it would not have, here's what I always say. Anytime that you can have Michael Myers look cooler in any of the sequels, obviously it improves your movie. That doesn't mean that Halloween 4 suddenly becomes a classic, but it certainly does improve that aspect of the movie.
Sure.
Right? And, same thing if you had the bandages in Halloween 5. It doesn't make Halloween 5 a great movie, but it would improve that aspect of 5. Sure. Yeah. Like you can never go wrong. It's like
because we're supposed to believe that the mask Michael wears in Halloween 4 is the same mask that he's wearing by Halloween 6.
No, it's not.
What?
It's not. Well, it's the same mask in 5. It's not the same mask. Yeah.
From 4 to 5 to 6, that's supposed to be the same mask.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no.
Yeah. No, I don't buy it either. And I don't. Well, to your point, I don't think you could have used it indefinitely because I think, it would have gotten dirtier and dirtier and dirtier. And then, all this shit, it eventually would have unraveled, I'm sure. But to your point, you could have used it through all of 4, 100% all of 4. No issues there whatsoever. And you could have even maybe had a little bit of a catch fire, which would have been interesting. And then he's got to like put it out and shit or something. But you could have used it all through 4. And I think you could have, once he went into the river and it gets wet and soaked, if you want to keep the story of how, and again, we're just talking about the franchise as is. If you want to keep the story of Halloween 5 the way it is, epic fail. But if you want to keep it the way it is, you could have had the bandages get wet, right? And when he's in the river and then the hermit gets him and then he goes up into the thing and the hermit unwraps him. The hermit unwraps him, to see what the fuck is going on. Does this guy need help? We don't see his face or whatever. And then maybe in the hermit's lair or whatever, he's got some cool mask. I don't know. He's got some mask that's there.
Or he rewraps it and it's a shitty wrap. It doesn't look great. And then he gets back to Haddonfield. And at some point, after he kills Rachel at the most unnecessary time in the movie, maybe there's a moment, maybe Tina's boyfriend, Michael, has a different mask, something that looks a little similar to Michael's original mask. And that's where Michael gets his mask back. You know what I mean? And then boom, you're off and running.
Right.
With Michael back in the mask. You could have a moment where, he kills Michael. That was Tina's boyfriend's name, right? Michael?
I believe. Yeah, I think so.
Something like that.
Yes.
Once he kills him, he goes to the car and he sees on the seat, the mask.
Right.
And you could have, you can have the subtle Halloween theme playing on the piano very subtly maybe you see him from a back shot. He's unwrapping the mask. Then you see him drop it and then you see him lift up the mask and put the new mask on. Yeah. Boom.
And what a moment that would have been for that film. Right. Like what a moment that would have been. Now he's back. Right. That would have been actually because he's transitioning. Not, I know that means something else today.
Transcending.
He's transcending. That's right.
Isn't that what she says?
Yes. The more he, the more he kills, the more he transcends. The more he kills, the more he transitions. What's going on here? But seriously, I mean, it's that thing where he, like that would have been again, that doesn't mean the movie is going to be good. So please keep in mind, folks, that Tony and I are not saying that you do this one change and all of a sudden Halloween 5 is amazing and part 6 is amazing and, that's not what we mean at all. We're just saying that, hey, this is interesting. It's the one and only time that Michael has really two different looks. I mean, yes, in the first film, he has the clown mask, but he's 6 years old. That doesn't count. In his adult life, it's the only film that we see him with two different looks, as far as I know. Because I don't think you see that in Resurrection. You don't see it in H2O. You don't see it in Halloween 6. I know in Halloween 6 they used a couple of different masks. I know that, but it's supposed to be the same mask, and it's the white mask. It's the what I mean. So, but this is two very distinctive looks. That is part of the narrative, and because that mask in 4 is so bad, although it's grown on me a little bit over the years, I guess, like I often say.
Same here. I mean, there's moments in the film that it looks good. Yeah. And then there's moments I'm like,
right. No. Yeah, exactly. And so it would have been interesting to see. I want to put up a poll here and I want to see what the chat room says.
Well, we know, I mean, I don't know. It's going to be unanimously,
would you have
the mask over the bandage? Yeah, no, that's a look. Because the fan base is too used to the identity of who Michael is. It would be that question would be different had they gone the bandage route, because we would have accepted it. Right. That's what it would have been. That's what it is. But because his mask is his identity.
Right.
It's kind of now after 12 movies. It's hard to break away from that.
All the way through Halloween 4.
When your mind is so used to, seeing, that.
Right. Yeah. So I put up the poll and it is, would you have liked the bandaged mask all the way through Halloween 4?
That'll be a no.
Yeah. This will be like 98% yes.
2% no.
Yeah. It's going to be something like that. Probably. It's going to be something like that. Look at that. We got 29% say no, though. 17 votes. Really? Yeah, 17 votes. 71% say yes. 76% say yes. 24% say no.
I guess it's the way you're wording it and the fact that we're saying the payoff would be he would get his mask in 5.
Well, but still, it's the question. Would you have liked the bandaged mask all the way through Halloween 4?
I guess because when you look at Halloween 4 as a whole, so let's think about it for a moment. How many scenes do we see Michael in? Well, not the garage and not when Loomis sees him in the garage, but actually wearing the mask. Well, we see him in Jamie's dream sequence. That actually would have been really creepy with him bandaged up.
Yes.
That would have been really fucking creepy. Jamie's dream sequence.
Yeah, would have, and it should have been actually. It should have been.
Yeah, because at that point he doesn't have the mask.
No, he doesn't.
That
I guess
should have been bandage Michael.
I guess it's foreshadowing a bit, but
right. And how would she know what he looks like, right?
Oh, that's it. Yeah.
So,
Uncle. See,
see. So let's see here. Okay, what scenes do we see him in? The rooftop scene.
Oh, you mean like all the scenes we see him in?
I'm trying to think of just. He's not in a lot of scenes.
Okay, well let's go through it. Okay, so
the mask.
Oh, where you see the bandage mask or the mask mask?
No, the mask.
Okay, so the mask. The first time we see it, you're right, is Jamie's dream sequence.
Jamie's dream sequence.
As we first see it. Then we see it puts on in the store.
In the store.
Yeah. Right. And then we see it when he kills, I don't know if this is next, but when he kills Bucky, we see it there. That's when I think he kind of looks like Michael Jackson. Yeah. We see it.
That's a bad mask.
We see it when he kills. When he's at
Meeker's house.
Right. We see it a bunch of times there on the roof.
On the roof downstairs when he kills Kelly, we see a blip of it off in the background when the cops rocking in the rocking chair.
That's right. Well, we also see it when those three guys who are pretending to be Michael. There's that one shot.
That's one of my most like. If I had to pick a scene I don't like in the movie, it's that.
Yeah, but there's but there's that one guy that's got a Shatner mask on that looks amazing.
That's the mask they should have used.
Oh, yes, now I don't know if it just looks amazing on him, but it looks amazing. No, because the hair and
everything, the way because Michael's hair was slicked back, whereas that guy's hair, that was, I know who you're talking about.
Yes.
If they had done that look of the mask, on George P. Wilbur, that would have definitely would have changed, because Michael just looks like, I don't know, he just looks like he's about to head to Jersey Shore for the weekend with that.
I know.
You know what I mean?
But the audience knows exactly what I'm talking about. When you watch Halloween 4 and there's that scene where they're outside and Meeker's there, Loomis, what's going on? Loomis. And they see these three guys dressed as Michael. There's the guy, it's the way it's lit too. Remember, you can have the best Michael Myers mask in the world, but if you don't light it properly, it's not just gonna look like shit, but it's not gonna look like anything special. It's how you light that mask. And it's the guy that's standing next to the house in the corner. And the way it's lit and the way the mask looks and the hair is kind of poofy. It looks like...
It's the closest to the 78.
Yeah. It's like, why isn't fucking Wilbur wearing that? Now, maybe...
Right?
I don't know. Even the mask, the blonde-haired mask in the elementary school, which still to this day, I do not believe for 1 second that nobody noticed. I don't believe that for a second that nobody noticed. No, I believe that they were under time crunch. And listen, I know what they've said. I know what the documentary has said. I just find it hard to believe that nobody noticed. I think it was a time crunch thing, and they felt that we wouldn't notice. They noticed, but thought, fuck it, let's just do it. We don't have time. Who's going to notice? That's what I think, because the shot is so quick. I don't think they didn't know. How do you not know that? How do you not notice that? Come on. That just, unless it's some second unit that shot that or something and didn't know anything about Halloween. I have no idea, which isn't the case at all. 67% say yes, 33% say no. There's some Halloween 4 mask love here that want the Halloween 4 mask all the way through Halloween 4 and do not want the Bandaged 4 mask, but 66% are saying yes. I think it would have been an interesting experiment. Now, keep in mind, folks, remember, at that time, the Myers mask was not iconic, not like it is now. Not that it wasn't well known or the look and everything, but I think it was still an opportunity that you could have changed it. I think you could have changed it. I think you could have. Well, yeah,
because as I said at the beginning here, you technically he's only
it's properly motivated.
His what we know of him, he only wore it that one night in the first two films, which I count as one continuous night. So for him to be wearing bandages throughout Halloween 4, it's not going far out the narrative, because it would make sense.
Right.
He was practically burned to death in Halloween 5.
Yeah.
Sorry, Halloween 2. Sorry.
2. Yeah.
So it makes you wonder, I mean, I understand why they did what they did. Because as we said, it's his identity. And obviously they're going by like what was going on in the 80s with Jason having the hockey mask, Freddy
Right.
having his look.
Right.
So yeah, I get it. I get that that's what they were aiming towards.
Yeah.
Any reason why they couldn't get access to the mask from 2, which is the mask from 1, but was it because Dick had the mask?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think too, we have to remember, it's a good question. It's a good question. That might have been it. But something that I absolutely agree with 100%. When I watch these documentaries and when I watch, the behind the scenes and all this kind of stuff, the one thing that you will often hear filmmakers and actors alike say, and I know it might be hard for fans to believe, but it is true, that the obsession that a lot of fans have with properties and details and, masks and stuff, it's not to the same degree, especially at that time. Halloween was not what it was today. Then
No,
it certainly was not what it was then. So there was no feeling of this urgent need that, oh my God, we need to get the mask from Deborah Hill. No, they were just like, let's just fucking make another one. They didn't, it wasn't the same. Nobody thinks like, it's not the same level. Fans are obsessed. That's why fans will know more details than often the filmmakers or the stars do, right? Because they dissect everything. They know everything. They read everything. It's a job for a lot of these people, especially actors, right? Because as I've often said, actors, generally speaking, depends on how much you're a part of the production, they're contract players. They are hired for a certain period of time. They're part of a project for maybe 3 months, and then that's it. And if they're not a producer and they're not an executive producer and they're not, a writer or whatever, they do their job, they leave, and they don't know anything about the movie more than you do. And they don't get to see the movie until it's done, generally speaking.
We're the ones who are invested into it.
Right. Now, the filmmakers, the directors and the producers and the writers are generally, well, not more than generally, I would say, they are the ones that are on a project from inception to completion. When we shot It's Me, Billy, I mean, we lived it every day, from writing it to, pre-production to production to post-production. Victoria and Shelby and Malika and everybody came on for a certain window. But then once they were done, that was it. They went off to do other things and go about their lives. And we are still invested and we're there and that kind of stuff. And fans are like that. They're on for the ride through everything, through pre-production, production, post-production, distribution. They're there for the this and that and this, that. They obsess over everything, even long after a film is done. So, and this is the 1980s.
Man. Have you ever seen those videos on YouTube? Like, I'm sure you have. If the fans are asking, whether it's Jamie Lee Curtis or Daniel Harris or, whoever from the franchise, these deep thought out questions, and their responses are like,
I don't know.
I don't know. And you almost see like this, like instant, like they're the person who's asking the question, like the world is about to collapse on them. Like they've just died inside.
Right.
And it's
I know.
But to your point of what you're making here, it's like you just said, the actors are not spending this amount of time in the mythology of these films. And it's a job. It's a job to them.
Right.
And fans don't seem to get that.
And it's not that it's not a job they don't love or that they don't appreciate. And sometimes it becomes their best known work and part of their identity. Sure. Absolutely. And they appreciate it. And they, not all of them, but a lot of them love the fans and appreciate it. And absolutely. But it's the fans where these films and stories live forever. And it's the fans that know everything. And that's why you do. And it breaks my heart sometimes when I watch like convention panels and stuff and where you'll see somebody ask something, they're so excited. So, they'll say something like, when you were doing this and that, what did it feel like when you walked over here and then you did this and you put your hand up here? What was that like? And you can tell they're like, I don't even fucking remember doing it.
Or when
I have no idea.
When they ask Carpenter all these questions about Michael's mythology, and he's like, I don't fucking know, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
It's because to him, he wanted to make a movie, you know, and we've heard the story.
Of course. And it's not that he didn't think about those things, but we're thinking about things much deeper. We are intellectualizing things much deeper. He's not. And so anyway, so my overall point was, you know, back in the 80s, you know, it wasn't a big deal. Nobody felt that, well, in order for Halloween 4 to be perfect, we have to get a mask that looks identical. Now, they tried. They had. I believe those masks were, I think they were Shatner Don Post masks, if I'm not mistaken, which is why the blonde-haired one actually looks probably the most like the original, at least from the profile. When you see it, the way it looks, minus the hair. So they did make that attempt. But to go and ask for the one from Dick, it just wasn't they didn't think to do it. It wasn't a big deal. It was unnecessary probably as well. It is fascinating. It's cool. Like, I mean, it's cool, but to your point, I do notice that there are some fans that get so excited and then when I watch the actor or the actress or even the filmmaker give them an answer, you know, they do their best to give them something that's, you know, that's a little nugget maybe or something. But I guarantee you there's a lot of the times where they probably walk away feeling dissatisfied with the answer because they're so neck deep into it, you know, and you know, a lot of these actors that go to these conventions haven't thought about this shit in years. In years, they don't think about this stuff. I mean, it's probably the conventions that are forcing them to think about it more, you know? And
the fan base wasn't like what it is today. It was nowhere near like that. I've shared this story a million times. If I found a friend who was into horror movies back in the day when I was a kid, it was just me and that one other individual. And usually they were like in another fucking town. You know what I mean? They weren't we weren't in the same school together. I mean, I have friends who would come over and hang out and we would do horror movie nights together at our house, like almost every Friday night. And, you know, we would just do a marathon of but they were friends of mine who were just casual, like hanging out with your buddies, watching horror. They weren't getting into it like I was getting into it.
Right.
I was writing, you know, I'm not even fucking kidding. I was writing Halloween short stories, and because my cousins were into it as well too, but they were a town over for me, and you know, our version of text messaging was dropping in the post office box, and that's right, snail mail. 3 or 4 days later, that my cousins would get a letter from. But I did that. I would write little short stories, and you know, and because again, the fans back in the day, they weren't thinking along the lines. Today the fandom was nowhere near where, and I don't know how it changed. I don't know how it shifted to where, you know, every little detail in any movie, I don't care what the fucking movies, Halloween, fucking Marvel, fucking whatever. Well, I don't know shit about comic books, so if something is not continuity for me, I'm just like, hey, this looks great, you know.
Well, you know, and you know, it's I think, again, this is generally speaking, obviously, but I've noticed that the best interviews where you get the most nuggets and the most details from people who work on films are the filmmakers themselves, are the directors, are the producers. You know, you can listen to, it's not that you don't get good stories from, you know, the actors. You can, of course you can, but like I just said, it's the filmmakers that spend the most time with a movie because they are there from inception to completion, and they are living it and breathing it every single day. And so when you watch interviews with like Spielberg or Lucas or Scorsese or Nolan, I mean, the depth for which they can talk about Batman or Indiana Jones or Star Wars, you know, goes beyond anything most of the actors would be able to do because the actors because they've lived and breathed. A lot of times when you're talking about Hollywood tentpole film, like studio major films, the filmmakers are with the project for several years. I mean, several years we're talking about here, where an actor will come on for like a few months. Again, and
that's it. They're done.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, listen, It's Me, Billy was not obviously a major Hollywood temple film, but because we were producing it ourselves, it was crowdfunded, we wanted to shoot it as professionally as possible, make a real movie. We were with it I announced making that movie in 2019. in the summer of 2019, 2.5 years ago. We've been on and we're just now finally, getting all of the perks out. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, we spend the filmmakers spend the most time with the project, whereas the actors will come on for a relatively short period of time. So, so that's why I love, not that I don't like listening to actors talk about their movies, I do, but if you want to get the real juicy, detailed nuggets, watch the directors' commentaries, watch, interviews with directors and filmmakers and producers, because they're the creators of it. You know what I mean? And the people that drive it. So they're the ones that usually will be able to answer all those, obscure, detailed kind of shit, where an actor might be like, yeah, I guess. You know what I mean? But again, it's generally speaking, of course. I'm sure there are many examples of actors that can talk that way too. But so I don't know. Well, our poll right now is yes is at 65%, no is at 35%. Interesting. So it's a lot closer than I thought.
The other thing too, what's different about comic book movies versus the horror movies, especially if we're talking about the slasher genre, the Freddys, the Jasons, the Michaels, and Ghostface movies. Comic books, they had decades of, stories,
material,
material.
Yeah.
So when Marvel started to do its run, you already had something established. The reason why the horror community wasn't like the way it is today, because back then when we were growing up, it was being established. It was happening in the moment.
That's right.
And like you said, Michael was nowhere to be found for almost the entire decade until the very end. It was Freddy and Jason, those two IPs pretty much ran the decade.
Yeah.
And Michael's identity it didn't really start to kick in until by the time we got to Curse. By the time you got to Curse, you could definitely say Michael had his identity. The fan base was there. I thought my dog was jumping at the door.
Oh, I thought maybe the door opened by itself.
Yeah, no. For a split second, I was like, It's like,
Tony.
But again, that, we didn't have, there wasn't source materials. There wasn't comic books that we could go back to from the 50s to 60s, like the comic book movies have. So for us growing up, we're watching this, we were living in it in the moment. So that's why, it'd be interesting to see what it would be like today if none of this stuff happened in the 80s and they were establishing it now.
Yeah.
It would be very interesting to see how the fans, because again, back then you're talking no social media, so we can't sit around talking about it.
No, it wasn't
and like I said, we're watching these IPs and these characters being established literally as it's happening.
Right. And as we've talked about before, and I've talked about as well, it's that ease of access to information. The free information is so easy to get now. Some of it's right, some of it's wrong, some of it's good, some of it's bad. But the internet and social media and how easily accessible people are and how easily accessible some of the celebrities are and things like that. It's never been like that ever before in the history of the entertainment industry. Yeah. And so there's this, it's just, we are inundated, we are saturated with so much knowledge about stuff that just was not accessible 40 years ago. And so therefore you didn't care about it. You had to go and read books or magazines or, maybe some late night, some late night little show that would pop on and, you read about in the TV guide, George Lucas is going to be, what? I mean, now I can go onto YouTube and watch 50,000 interviews with George Lucas like that. You couldn't do that 40 years ago. And Mike Johnson here, I just want to acknowledge his point because he says, Dave, you make a valid point. I sometimes think the fans know more of the details than the actors. That's because you do. Now, again, generally speaking, because when an actor finishes a job, they are often in the middle of doing another project when the other project they're doing is in post-production. And sometimes, depending on how long it takes, they can go off and do another 2 movies before the big one comes out. And then they circle back around because they're contractually obligated to do the press tours and and all that kind of stuff, right? To help promote the film. That's usually when an actor will come back on a project, is they shoot for 3 months. Again, if they're just an actor and they're not a producer, all that kind of stuff, they will shoot a film for 3 months or so. They will leave. They will go off and do other things. And then in 2 years' time or 18 months' time, they'll get the call. Hey, Dave, yeah, well, we need you to now, we're about ready to start marketing this thing. So we're going to need you to go on, all these shows and, whatever. It's like, okay, well, I'm ready. Let's do it. Right. And so it's true. But fans are the ones reading about it every day, all day. Sure. Fans are the ones that are watching all the shows. Fans are the ones going, what's next? What's that? They're not doing that.
Well,
they're not doing that.
I will say this though: if the character Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger, if these characters were already established, let's say in a graphic novel, you know what I mean, that came out decades before, and there were series of it, and there was a fan base already established. Because there was a backlash when it was announced that Michael Keaton was playing Batman. That did not go over. There were fans, sending death threats to Warner Brothers. It was bad. So there was that toxicity back then especially when it came to like a movie like Batman and Michael Keaton being cast, but you weren't seeing it in the horror community because, as I just said a moment ago, we were establishing it as, during the 80s. It was happening in that moment. But I think had they had something, because then you would have, if you had stories already, in a graphic novel of some sort, then you would be like right now, you'd be wondering, who would be a good Dr. Loomis to play? And if you heard the name Donald Pleasance, you might go, really? They're picking him? They're picking the guy from the Jesus movie? Like, are you sure? Really? That's what probably people would have said. Like,
the guy Jamie from the Lee Bond
Curtis?
film?
Who the fuck is Jamie Lee Curtis? Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, Janet Leigh. Oh, okay. She's Janet Leigh's, like, what has she done? Saving Private Benjamin or some shit like that? You know what I mean? Like, that's probably what people would have said in the late 70s. Like, if Halloween was an established IP through graphic novels, and as it was being announced who was playing who, fans might have been like, okay, PJ Souls is playing, Linda, and who's playing
of course it would have been that, because that's all fans do. That's all they do. And listen, I mean, obviously I'm not, I have not, I started my career as an on-camera actor. That's what I wanted to do in the early 2000s. I was auditioning for commercials and docudramas and all that kind of stuff. And then I went the voiceover route. So I speak from the voiceover perspective because that's been my primary career in the entertainment industry. But voice acting is acting. It's the same thing. You're just doing it behind a microphone. I'm not saying it's easy, like it's the same thing, it's easy because it's the same thing. I don't mean it like that. I just mean it's acting. You are voice acting. And I can tell you, as an actor, as a performer, I can tell you, that the same principles apply. When I do a cartoon, or when I do a voiceover for a product or a service, I come in, I'm there for maybe an hour, depending on what I'm doing and what the project is. If it's animation, it tends to be a lot longer. If it's a commercial or a promo, sometimes I'm in there for half an hour or an hour, depending on how fast we can get through it. I don't sit with the project. I go in, I'm hired, I'm an actor. I go in, I do my job, and I leave. I'm not thinking about it the next day. I'm on to the next project. And then I'll get wind either from my agent, or I'll just happen to be scrolling TV, or I'll be watching a YouTube thing or whatever, and an ad will pop on, and there's my ad. You know what I mean? Or whatever the case is. So again, not identical, but the same principles apply, is that actors are contract players, essentially, right? Your contract, you only work, you only get paid when you work. That is, I don't think about it. I just, like, for example, I mean, it would be like, I did a bunch of guest cartoon spots on the show Doki. I did about, I think 10 of them or something like that. I mean, it would be like, I couldn't tell you. First thing, I do it. I go in, I leave, and that's it. There's probably Doki fans out there that know everything there is to know and all the little details of my characters that I was on. When I say guest spots, that they weren't regular characters that were in each episode. They would be like, I'm playing the evil whatever in this particular episode, or the good whatever in this particular episode. But if you were to, I'm sure somewhere online there's a backstory to this character I played and his wife and 3 kids or something. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. But the fans would, right? Again, I'm talking about the principle of the whole idea. There might be a Doki fan. I don't know. I have no idea. There might be somebody going, "Hey, Dave, did you know that such and such you played? What'd you think about that?" I'm like, "What the fuck? I have no idea what you're talking about." Animation actors get that a lot too, and so it's the same principles apply. The reason why I can speak so confidently on it is because of my experience as a voice actor, because the same principles apply. And of course, my experience as a filmmaker and just understanding the business side of things and knowing how it works. And again, I'm not saying that to claim that I'm some big hotshot or something. I'm just saying that is true. There's a lot of truth to that. And I've heard other people in the industry talk about that as well. I've even heard Mark Hamill talk about that and say there are so many fans, so many hardcore Star Wars fans that know so much more than I do about Luke Skywalker or about Star Wars. Like literally, I can tell you stories about being on set and all that kind of stuff, but I couldn't tell you anything from the Legends books or the this or the that or my character, this kind of stuff. I mean, I know my character's this and he's optimistic and he knows sort of the core principles, but there's so much more deeper stuff about Luke that the fans know that Mark doesn't even know, doesn't even think about, because the fans know everything. And so they should. That's want true. That. You don't want Mark Hamill to care about Luke forever. You want the fans, you want the customers to care about that shit forever. So it doesn't matter if Luke knows everything, or Mark knows everything there is to know about Luke. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It would only be disappointing in a setting where you're asking him a question and you realize that he doesn't know, because it's like, wow, that's Luke, right? It's like, holy shit, and he should know all this. I can see it being disappointing there, but at the end of the day, the studios don't care. As long as you are obsessed with it and you care about it and you start forking over the money, that's who it's for. You're supposed to be obsessed that way, not the actors, So yeah, it's fascinating. It's a fascinating topic. It's a fascinating topic. It
is.
Yeah, it is.
And it's fun to talk about. It's fun to geek out and get into these nerd type conversations and, bring up what if scenarios, because again, as we said last week, this is all in good fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's looking at it from a different perspective. It's good to have these open-minded conversations into thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
Obviously we know that's never going to be the case. Halloween 4 is what it is. And
yeah, that's right.
We can't change it. It's still second in my, rankings of the franchise.
Yeah.
Love that movie to death. We'll always love that movie to death. I'll probably be buried with that movie. VHS. Yeah. Well,
it's your favorite of the series.
Yeah.
It's your favorite of the series.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's my favorite in the series, but if I were to rank the Halloween movies from a film perspective, Halloween is obviously the superior.
Well, of course. Your favorite in a series doesn't necessarily have to be. See, it takes and
you have to explain that to people nowadays, though.
Well, it's true. It's because
what do you mean Halloween 4 is your favorite, but it's not number 1?
That's because nuance is dead. But I will say this. I will say that it's okay to have, like your favorite in a series might not objectively be the best one either. I mean, I think some people feel that the best in a series has to be their favorite. Like they don't understand that they're not necessarily mutually exclusive to each other. So it takes a certain level of maturity to be able to separate the two. And sometimes the best one is your favorite, and maybe it's your favorite because it is the best one. I mean, those things can happen too. But yeah, I mean, I would say that Halloween 4 still, even with 18 and kills here, I think Halloween 4 is probably still the best sequel outside of part 2. from 1981. I still think it is. And
it kept a lot of the identity of the franchise intact with a lot of mood, a lot of atmosphere, the music.
Yeah, the way it wasn't I don't think it was anamorphic the way they shot it, but it was, they had the right look, they had the right lighting. I mean,
and like we said, the mask at some points it hits really well, and then at some points it's like a train wreck.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit.
Yeah. Cody Snyder says, what if Halloween 5 didn't have existence? I mean, didn't exist? You mean?
I mean, for me,
I think that'd be great.
I think if 4 ended the way it did, yeah, if we were left, because then you have so many opportunities. So many, like if you were thinking about revamping it, or not revamping, but revisiting the franchise, and 4 was the last time we saw anything. Okay, like there's no 218, there's no Rob. Well, yep. Okay, you can still have Rob Zombies in there, but there's no H2O, there's no Resurrection, there's nothing. And 4 was the last Halloween film from the original run with the original. There's so much. There's so much you could do. So much, because I truly believe. And in my heart of hearts, if they never did anything after 4 and that's where they left it, I do believe Jamie Lee Curtis would have came back, still keeping that storyline intact with the franchise. And we probably, maybe even for the H2O movie, we probably would have seen Danielle Harris and Jamie Lee Curtis together. That's my gut feeling. The reason why I think she's so, not into the middle part of the franchise is because by the time you get to 5 and 6, it gets so fucking derailed that it's like, I don't blame her for not wanting to have anything to do with that story arc of her character, because it makes no fucking sense. He's a part of a fucking cult now. What the fuck?
Well, as great, as much as I love the ending of Halloween 4, and as much as it is one of the great endings in
next to the original
slasher movies and things like that, it does sort of pigeonhole them. And it was anticlimactic. When you start 5 and that's the story they want to tell, and you realize that it kind of makes the ending of 4 silly in some ways. The ending of 4 works great if that was it.
Right, full circle.
Right, coming full circle. The ending of 4 would be so iconic today. Not that it's not in its own right, but it would be more maybe objectively iconic today because there were no other movies. Now, obviously, that's, a dream world. Obviously, Halloween 4 did well enough that they wanted to make another one. And I understand that from a business perspective, because that's what it's all about, is pleasing your shareholders and making money.
Yep. That's it.
But from an artistic point of view, if that was the end, that was the end. And I mean, what an epic ending, because then the ending becomes more mature. There's layers there, and you realize, oh my God, it's come full circle. And
Evil never dies.
Evil never dies. Wait for it. There's going to be a bunch of evil dies tonight now. Right? But it's true. It's true, right? Evil never dies. And you see that little girl at the top of the stairs, and she's got the clown mask on. She's got the scissors in her hands. Dr. Loomis is losing control. And the reason he's losing control is because he realizes, fuck, it's happening again. I don't want it to happen again. And you cut to black on her, the breathing, you can play the credits, but you never make another film. And think of how, because then what happened? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because the message has been served. The message has been delivered. It doesn't matter what happens next. You can think about it on your own. Amazing shit. Then what you do is, of course, they would have no way of knowing this and predicting the future, that we would be in an era in 30 years where nostalgia is, cool and hip again. But then that's when we talked about that 30 years in the future. If you wanted to, you could do Halloween 5, or a direct sequel to 4 that does bring back Danielle Harris, that does bring back Rachel Carruthers, Ellie Cornell, that does bring back Laurie Strode,
Jamie Curtis.
Right. You could do that then.
Laurie visits Jamie in the hospital.
Because there's so much distance between the time that she was, say, like 10 and the time that she's like 45 now, that you could even have her out and living maybe a fairly productive life, right? Because she went through treatment. You know, she doesn't have to be locked up in a mental institute at 45. She was a minor. So maybe she got the help that she needed. She went because that's what they wanted to do. And now and then maybe Michael comes back. I don't know. You know, you explore those options. Well, what's the story? What's it all about? But
the way I was thinking is with Michael at the end of 4, the story you could tell with his survival is that you have some type of narrative that they thought he died, but he didn't die. His body was found. They brought him back to whatever maximum security again, you know, something like that. So you need to have some type of throwaway story arc to bring Michael back, that he did survive the fall.
Right.
You know, and they found him unconscious, you know what I mean? All banged up, unconscious. Yeah. And, you know, they lock him back up again, and that's where he's been, you know what I mean?
Yes.
You have some type of dialogue like that, you know what I mean? And then you have Lori come back into the equation, trying to reestablish her relationship with her daughter about lying, faking her death. She thought she was
that's drama Jamie. Right there.
That's trauma right there. And Jamie having to deal with the fact that my mother didn't die. She left me alone, knowing that this person, this evil man existed within
Add some family. Maturity and some weight to the story.
Man.
Now, there's no way of knowing that, right? And
our 10-year-old selves need to go back in time and set this franchise
That's right. Well, you go steal the plutonium, I'll get the DeLorean.
Exactly.
But it's true. It's that, you know, I often say this, and it sounds, I understand it, you know, again, it sounds mean to say this, but the studios don't care. And what I mean by that is, I don't mean they don't care at all. You know, that's a generalized statement, but I say it harshly like that so fans always remember that the first and most important thing for a studio is making money. That's it. That's all they care about. And the reason why they keep making the same things all the time is because you keep going to see them. And I know that sounds like a cliche, but it is true. If you didn't go and watch the movies you say they make too much of, they wouldn't make them. But they follow patterns, they follow trends, they look at what's hot, and what's hot right now is horror movies with witches. Okay, why? Because horror movies with witches seem to make a lot of money, whether it's streaming or box office or whatever. So everybody wants to get on the game, and all of a sudden you see Paramount doing it, Universal doing it, Sony doing it, whatever, right? Because they see the trends, and they realize, well, that's what's hot, that's what's going to make money. And then as soon as they don't start making money, gone. They abandon it altogether, as fast, just like that. It's about making money. And I know these things are easier said than done, but that's what it is, you know, you say, well, why is there so much of this? Because we go and see it. We consume it. We watch it. That's what it is. Do you think there's going to be another Scream movie? Yes. Why? Because you went and saw it. Now, Scream is a thing where, no, I still haven't seen it, but Scream is one of those.
Neither have I, so don't spoil it, guys.
Yeah, don't spoil it. I haven't seen it yet because the theaters are still closed here. They're supposed to be opening to 50% capacity on the 31st, so we'll see. But it's one of those things where I know Scream is a bit different because it's a beloved property and people love it, want to go see it. Okay, fine. But if you were somebody that was sick of Scream and you're wondering why do they keep making these Scream? Because people keep going to see them. And so the studios will keep, as long as if you want to be guaranteed that Michael lives forever, then you better watch Halloween Ends 48 times in the theater. Just start forking over that money. I mean, that's what matters. They have to, make their money back because they have to please their shareholders. They have to pay back their debts. They want to make money, and this is what makes money. And that's what it is all about. It is nothing more than a business. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't care at all what fans think, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it makes money. And that's why you see them making a lot of stuff that is similar, because that's what's hot, that's what's current, that's what the trends are.
Unless finally it's happening, you're A24 and you're taking my two favorite genres, pornography and horror movies, and combining them together with that movie X that's coming out soon. I'm excited for that. That's true.
And that comes down more to A24 is a production company, and that comes down to well, they may be a production company
finally
studio as well.
Horror.
I'm not sure.
There we go.
But that comes
it's serious. It actually does look really good.
No, I will say it does look interesting. It does look interesting.
Chainsaw Massacre vibe to it.
Yeah, I get it. I get totally. I want to see it. But here's something too that that's why Jason Blum's, I know a lot of people hate him, but that's why Jason Blum's business strategy was so brilliant, because now he's sort of, he's kind of, because he's been doing this a long time now, he's starting to, he follows the trends too and all that kind of stuff. But the business model was brilliant. Make low budget movies, low budget horror films, and make a lot of money. So that, if you are a production company that wants to make a lot of low budget horror movies, that's great, because generally speaking, low budget horror movies, generally speaking, make a lot of money. When I say a lot of money, I don't mean like Spider-Man money. I just mean they make 40, 50 million, sometimes even bigger if it's a proven property like Scream or Halloween. Okay. That doesn't mean the slasher genre is back. Scream, Halloween, they can make over $100 million because it's Scream and Halloween. But if I was to release a movie called, I don't know, Pixel Man Slicer Dude or something, it probably wouldn't even make that, because everyone's like, oh, what's this? But the point I'm making is that a lot of the times these horror films are low risk. So you can spend like $5-6 million, and if it only makes, 15 million.
Yeah, the risk to reward in horror is pretty,
low budget horror.
There.
Low budget. Right. It's huge, because horror movies, generally speaking, even if they're bad, people like to go watch horror movies. And if you release them in September or October or November or January, they make some money. So even if it's bad, like, I don't know, Slender Man or The Nun or whatever, I think The Nun made some decent money.
It did. And when Chainsaw comes out next month on Netflix, I'm going to watch it. Of course I am.
Well, everybody's going to watch it. Everybody's going to watch it. You know what I mean? And that's why they make them. And so, again, I'm speaking, there's some nuance to what I'm saying, but yeah, that's why, generally speaking, they can take risks with horror movies, because horror movies tend to make, a fair bit of money in relation to it being a horror movie on a low budget, 5 million, 6 million, 7 million, 8 million. And they can sell them to streaming services, and they get watched all the time and this kind of stuff. And so Blum's business model is brilliant, which is why he's been so successful, and why he's so rich, is because he generally makes horror movies below $10 million, and they end up making $40 or $50 million, and sometimes more.
I really would like to see, and I would love to reach out to A24 and just kind of get an idea of, now, I'm not saying the movie X. I don't know if any of you guys have seen the trailer, but if you haven't seen the trailer, go. It really looks really good.
Yeah, it looks interesting.
Do you think that, my point though is, do you think that was legitimately shot on film, or do you think they were using a color grade to make it look like it's shot on film?
Was it shot on film? I don't know.
It looks like it was shot on film, but my point is,
let me see
what I really like about what I like about that movie is it's a period piece. It's set in the 70s. And I think, like, if you want to jolt horror and slasher in the arm, you need to start setting these things in a period piece, something to like the line of X, you know what I mean? Like what they're doing with this movie. I don't care if it's Friday the 13th. I don't care if it's Freddy. I don't care if it's, another Halloween movie or Leatherface movie, or Child's Play for that matter. I think when you set it in these periods, whether it's the 70s or 80s, there's something about that nostalgia that just, if you do, like, even in the flashback sequence they did in Halloween Kills, if you do it right, it's going to be a home run. Or even with original new characters, new ideas, setting it in, the period of, the 70s is always going to be a hit, and the 80s as well too. You could do the 90s. But I think especially when it comes to those two decades, because I remember watching the trailer, and going, wow, it's been a minute since I've seen a new movie that's set in this period that's based on horror. Right. You know what I mean? I can't think of, because the remake for Chainsaw with Jessica Biel, that was set during the times, right? It wasn't set in the 70s.
No.
Because didn't they have cell phones?
No, I don't think so. I think that was supposed to be the 70s, I think.
No, I think you're right, because you want to know why? I forgot the beginning, the prequel, which I like. I know a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
They're going to Vietnam.
That's
right.
Yeah.
So you're right. No, you're right. Yeah, so it is set in the 70s.
Yeah.
So that might have been the last one, because I don't think Elm Street was set in the 80s, was it? That was set at the time, right? 2010. Same thing with
right.
Friday the 13th remake.
Right,
that was set for modern times.
Correct.
I don't know when Rob Zombie's Halloween was set. I think it's somewhere in the 90s,
you know, maybe.
But yeah, you know, like I think to give the genre itself a little bit of a kickstart in its heart, not a Motley Crue reference, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Start doing these in period pieces. You know, I don't know what the cost would be, but
cost
I think
goes
more
up.
people would be inclined to seeing that. Well, it goes up, but if you can keep your set confined to not a lot, you're all right then, because it seems like this movie X is set on like one location.
Right.
From what I'm getting,
I can't find the budget for X. Obviously, shooting on film.
Yeah, either could I. That's why I'm curious to know how much this costs them.
Shooting on film, if it is shot on, shooting on film is more expensive, especially if you're shooting on 35. So I think but
there's filters now that come really close.
There are.
Like
yes, there are. And how you light it, for sure. Yep. Absolutely. 100%. So nowadays, to avoid that, unless it's for a specific reason, like I think the Batman, if I'm not mistaken, that's coming out in a couple of months, I think that might have been shot on film. Actually, I think it was shot on film, but that's also like a $200 million budget, and they can, afford to do that. I stand to be corrected, but I thought I heard that, but maybe I'm wrong. I would say, if I was a betting man, I would guess that X was shot basically how most movies are shot today, which is digitally, and then in post-production they color grade it and color time it to look a certain way. Yeah, a certain way.
Yeah, so if your color grader is like on point with it, you definitely save some money there, and then from there it's just set pieces. It's just it's being smart with your locations, not trying to, overexpend your budget with, multiple locations, keep it confined so that you can create, horror in a period piece. Because, like, where do you go with the genre at this point? I mean, like you said, when one studio does something and it's successful, I'm shocked. I'm shocked as shit that with all the popularity with Michael's having right now, that I understand why Jason hasn't hit the screen, but the fact that Freddy hasn't, I'm dumbfounded by that. Because I sure as shit thought during this run with Michael, we'll probably see, Freddy reborn, but nothing. All we've gotten is Ghostface, and now we're going to get Leatherface next month. So I'm surprised of the big three. Nothing. We're getting nothing from the other two. And I know why we're not getting anything with Jason.
Yeah, Freddy's an interesting one. I don't know what's going to happen there.
Does New Line still own him?
No, I don't think so. I think the rights went back to the Craven estate, actually. I think they have it at the moment. And their estate is probably looking for buyers. I know Elijah Wood and his production company was interested in it for some strange reason. I guess he's a fan. I don't know what's going to happen there. But again, as much as listen, we're going back to the well. And why are they going back to the well? Because it makes money. Now, all of you out there are excited. Oh, another Elm Street, another because you like those movies. But if you ever ask yourself, why do they keep it? Because you consume it. That's why. If you don't want an Elm Street movie, like hypothetically, if you're somebody who's just like, I don't want this fucking, then just don't go see it. If you put your money where your mouth is and don't go see it. But so many people say that, but they're first in line anyway because they can't contain themselves. And they're just like, and I get that. I totally understand it. But that's why. It perplexes me when I hear people say, I don't understand why they keep making this. Well, because you keep going to see it. That's why. Stop. Yeah. It's not that. This is a business. You want them to stop making it. If they don't do well, they'll stop making it. They will. Like, they're not going to make movies they're going to lose money on. So if you don't want, if you're sick and tired of whatever you're sick and tired of, now obviously for it to have any sort of impact, you would need, lots of people not to care, which is just not going to, I mean, look at this, another Batman movie. Now, I'm not saying it's not going to be good. The trailers look really cool and really interesting, right? But here we are again, another Batman movie, and it's like, if you're somebody that is sick of Batman, well, then don't go see the Batman. It's that simple.
Yeah, the thing is, comic books have such a deep fan base.
They do.
It don't matter.
It doesn't matter. And that's why they keep making it. Yeah. They could make this Batman and they could reboot this Batman in 4 years with another Batman and you'd still go see it.
True.
You know?
Well, especially if you're a fan of the Batman.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. So it's business. It's simple. It's just simple math. It's business. We make it. If you consume it, we'll make more, you know, and that's it. And that's why you see a lot of stuff. And it's not that they don't make original stuff. They do, but original stuff just doesn't make money. It's that simple. It doesn't make the kind of money to warrant more.
But let's also be fair to that too. They don't do the national release that like Halloween's going to get, you know.
No, well, it depends. It depends.
Sure.
It depends on the production company and the distributor.
Hereditary got a good release, but like this movie X, I don't think it's going to get like because they know the trends. They know it's not going to make money. So that's why they're either going to have a limited run or they're going to throw it onto streaming. That's why Texas Chainsaw Massacre is going to streaming. Yeah. One of the reasons why, you know, is because it's kind of like, I don't know if this is gonna, if they honestly felt that Texas Chainsaw was going to be huge, absolutely huge, they would absolutely take that risk. But I don't think it paid off for them with Jessica Biel in 2003.
It did. It's interesting. It's interesting. Let's go to the chat room and see what everybody is saying. Some super chats came in. Let me get them.
I did have a question this week about our what if. Someone asked me like, what if? What if in Halloween Ends, we get an H2O callback moment, and instead of Laurie decapitating Michael, it's Michael decapitating Laurie?
Didn't you say this last week, or did?
Yes, but I didn't. They're like, what would you do if that happens?
Oh, I see.
That's what I would do.
Oh, celebrate good times. Come on.
Right in the movie theater to piss everybody off.
I'll be honest with you. That would be funny in an ironic way.
I would love it every second.
That would be. I mean, it's kind of like, although H2O doesn't exist.
I hope you don't get paid for that. That's why I didn't play the words. I only played the instrumental part.
It's fine. Oh, it doesn't matter.
You never know with YouTube these days, man. Like,
I know.
You know, I made sure I only played the instrumental and not the freaking the words.
But it's one of those things where, like. What was I gonna say? I totally lost my train of thought. Damn it. What was I gonna say? I totally lost my train of thought.
If Michael decapitates Laurie.
Right. Well, you see, in H18, they had some fun with that kind of thing with Laurie going off the balcony and then Laurie suddenly not being there, right? You know what I mean? It was kind of a cheeky kind of thing that they did. They reversed it. But Halloween 78 exists in this timeline. So for Michael to first of all, I don't think they're going to do that. But if they did do that, that's purely just because H2O doesn't exist. So obviously, because Michael's alive. But I think that'd be funny though.
I'd light up the biggest cigar and be like,
it almost feels a little. It almost because like Laurie or not. Well, and it almost feels a little crass. And a little too almost disrespectful to the legacy character in some ways, like her or not, whatever. I mean, just she's a symbol of the subgenre. And I want them both to die. That's what I want. I want them both to die.
I still believe that. My gut feeling is that Allison, Andy Matichak, will be the last one standing. Hopefully with Lindsay. I don't know how that's going to play out. I'm rooting for Lindsay to make it, but I got a feeling Lindsay's probably going to go somewhere towards the end of the third act. That's my gut feeling. It'll suck to see her character go because I really wanted to see more of the legacy characters in Halloween Kills.
Right.
She was the only one I really wanted more of. I could care. That's sad to say that, you know, with a great actor like Anthony Michael Hall. And I don't know if it was because of the script he was given or because it's the way he played it. I just was like, dude, can you just get off the screen? Because I just really don't care.
Well, listen, the movie's just
Give
not
me more
that good.
Lindsay.
Yeah, it's true. HT Story sends in $5. Thank you. Says, having Michael in bandages the whole film would have been cool because he is already wearing a form of a mask, so why not? Well, that's the point. That's sort of what everybody has said, right? You're bang on, buddy. It's that thing where it's like, and it's not just, it's cool looking. And it's properly motivated. It's not like he walked into, a hardware store or a medical supply store and bought bandages to put on himself. It's kind of it's properly motivated. It's already there, and it makes sense why it would be there. So why not just roll with it? No, we agree. We agree. Happy Sanjo sends in $5, says, more to your point, Dave, Freddie and Jason both get NES games and Michael did not. No, but wasn't there an Atari Halloween game? I think there was I think the original right. Atari. I think there
Google
was.
That. I think you're right.
I think there might have been. But you're right. NES, yeah, Michael. The Elm Street game, in my opinion, was way better than the Friday the 13th game. I couldn't stand the Friday the 13th game. I could never get
Purple
through
Jason.
Yeah, but I could never find my way out of a cabin. It was just so annoying. Matthew Ferresi sends in $4.99, says, I'll take the bandage mask over what we got, but I wish they went with the mask on the cover of H4. That looked epic. Also ditched the shoulder pads. Could not agree more. Yeah, the mask on the cover of H4. I mean, that's essentially.
There is fan art though. I think I shared
where
it on my.
You did a while ago where they. Yeah. Go ahead.
They took the bandage Michael and they used that as the poster. And I was like, damn, that's really fucking cool. Yeah. I think I shared it on Instagram a while back during the Halloween run when I was sharing pictures.
Right. Yeah, no, it does. It does look cool. I've seen it. I've also seen people Photoshop the actual mask they use in H4 on the cover, and it just looks horrendous. Yeah, it's absolutely horrendous. Like shit. It does. Let's see. Matthew Fresi follows up with $9.99. Thank you, buddy. He says, I still wish Michael and Laurie were never made brother and sister. I've always hated that. I do love 4, but I have often wondered if it would have worked if Jamie was just a random little girl Michael was stalking. I think that would have been a little strange because of her age. I think you might have run into a little kind of awkward, a little uncomfortable questions around why he's obsessed with this little girl. It'd
have to be Michael going after Rachel and Jamie just happens to be there.
Correct. I think that's the safe bet to go with. That might have been interesting, and maybe he just gets obsessed with Rachel in a similar manner. Maybe.
Yeah, that could work. Maybe. That could have worked if you. Yeah. So actually, Halloween 4 still works. All you do is you take out the dialogue of Jamie being related. Yeah. And Rachel's babysitting Jamie. That's she's helping out with. Yeah.
It's not a bad idea. Let's see here. Mohammed Nabil sends in 50 DH 50. I forget the currency again. I think that's about $15 or so. Thank you, buddy. It says, Dave and Tony, what do you think of Wes Craven's new nightmare concept, execution-wise? And do you think that we need more movies similar to that to take place within people's real life? Well, I'll go first.
Self-aware?
Yeah, the meta sort of approach. I'll go first and say that I like Wes Craven's new Nightmare. It's not my favorite of the series, but I do like it. I've come to appreciate it more over the years as I've gotten older because I've gotten wiser. I think when it came out in 94, so, we were 15. I don't think I understood. It seemed like, what? Like, this is kind of lame. I didn't really understand. Not lame, but I was kind of like, but I was 15 years old, right? I didn't understand the more cerebral nature of the narrative and how kind of meta it was and all that kind of stuff. As I got older, I've come to appreciate the film a lot more, and I actually quite enjoy it. But I don't think it should be a trend. Scream didn't go quite that far with what they were doing, but Scream is, it's a little self-aware. It's a bit spoofy. It's got some of those elements there. Whereas New Nightmare, of course, is full that way because, all the actors are playing fictionalized versions of themselves. I think it's interesting, but I wouldn't want to see that turn into a trend. Tony, what about you?
Probably not turn into a trend, although I think I've said this several times. That particular Elm Street movie or Nightmare movie by Craven in that franchise is like third on my list. If I were ranking it, would be the original Part 3 and then that one, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, because I loved it from the moment I got it right from day one. Right. It was great to obviously to bring Heather back. in the role, and just creative. Of course, this was at a time too, early 90s, where reality TV was sort of in its infancy with The Real World. And I think that might have been it. I can't think of any other reality television shows that would have been out.
No.
Oh yeah, Road Rules. I forgot about that. Road Rules was around. Might have been around, or was on the horizon and coming. But the point is that self-aware real life that was in the infancy stages, and Wes, obviously, being the genius that he is, probably saw this like, this is kind of a foreshadowing of where our world, and look at where we're at. Reality TV basically took over by 2000s, and it became, so I think it was an innovative thing to do, creative thing to do. Not something I've said, if you wanted to do an original slasher movie set in today, and to be not so much self-aware, but aware, but real world, is, as I said, like these found footage hauntings, like Hell House, or Followed, or Host, or even Unfriended, sort of in the found footage cousin category. I would do a slasher like that, because everybody nowadays is recording themselves, or there's security cameras in the house and whatnot.
Agreed.
I would make a slasher movie like that. I wouldn't worry about soundtrack. I wouldn't worry about atmosphere. Make it as make people wonder, like, Jesus, is this fucking real? Like, what the fuck?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's where I would go with slasher, because it fits to today's audience.
I agree with you. And I think I've always said that I think the found footage horror subgenre is largely untapped. I think it's been exploited. I think it's oversaturated in a particular way. But when I say
untapped in the right way, you're right.
Not tapped in the right way. Let's say.
You know what I meant.
But I will say that, I think you can use post-production and produce the audio that you need. It just has to sound organic to the space. Right. It can't sound like it's overly produced. And that was one of the things. If you got
a girl like doing a video of herself in her bedroom, you want to have music that might be fitting to what she might be listening to in her room, not soundtrack music.
Sure. And it's got to sound like it's in the space, and she has to sound like it's in the space. And any sort of creepy noise that happens in the environment has to sound like it's happening in the environment of the bedroom. So that's one of the things that I noticed about Blair Witch from 2016. I didn't hate the movie. I actually thought it was okay. But I found that when shit hit the fan in the woods, the sound effects, it was overly produced. It was just, and what I mean by overly produced is, I mean, everything is too polished. It was overly produced. Well, that's what I mean, is that everything is too polished, and it sounds like sound effects that are added in sort of a studio. It doesn't sound like it's the
like the original did.
It doesn't sound like the screeches are coming from the environment in the space. And so I think there's still a market for that, but we'll see. All right. Let me see here. Let me just move on. What else we got here? Right. And then Mohammed Nabil, follows up again with another 50 and says, speaking of Freddy, are you guys a fan of Dream Warriors and the Freddy in it? I find it too goofy and not as dark and scary in comparison to the original classic and the sequel that I'm a fan of. Well, Mohammed, I do like Dream Warriors. Tony's a big fan of it. But I will say that for me, I tend to like the Elm Street films actually in their order. So my favorite is the original. My second favorite is the sequel. My third favorite would be Dream Warriors, and then followed by Dream Master, and then followed by New Nightmare, and then probably 5, and then 6 is dead last. I never include Freddy versus Jason, because to me that's just not part of the. It's like a weird experiment. I always see the Elm Street franchise as 7 films, but yeah, I don't mind it. I like it. I do, but I much prefer part 1 and 2. But you're a big fan, Tony, right?
Yes, I am. It's second on my list. If I were to rank them, I like 2. 2's growing on me a little bit more, but by the time we get to 4 and 5 and 6, it's like, all right. But if the ones that I watch consistently in this franchise would be the original part 3 and Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Yeah, those would be the ones. So.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Brandon Collins sends in $2. Says Carpenter gets rights back like Craven and Miller. I'm not sure what you're asking. Carpenter gets rights back like Craven and Miller. I'm not sure what you're asking. So Brandon, if you could clarify that, that would be great. FFFMM Forever sends in $5, says, which Nightmare on Elm Street kill was more disgusting? Roach Motel in 4 or food stuffing scene in 5? Thanks in advance to you guys, both rock. What's more disgusting? Probably the food one in 5. I just think 5 is just, I don't know, man. What about you, Tony? What's more disgusting? The roach kill?
You know, when she's on the bench and then, you know, Freddy breaks her arms.
I mean, that's true. That's true.
They're more goofy kills, you know, than anything. Like, I'm not really grossed out by them.
Bugs are gross.
Yeah, I mean,
I get you.
But they're more, like I said, they're more goofy kills. Like, again, when it comes to Nightmare on Elm Street, I mean, and I know you talked about this last night with Darren and Frank, that nothing's going to top Tina's death. I mean, if you're going to talk about intense and just, you know, theater of the mind, the fact that, you know, when Freddy goes to, you know, penetrate Tina with the knives, you don't see it. It's all invincible. And, you know, she's being dragged up the wall and, you know, screaming for her life. I mean, that to me is gross, but in the sense it's disturbing, you know, to watch that happen to someone. And it's why it's, in my opinion, and I know yours, it's the best kill in all of horror. It is. Well, I have a video coming tomorrow on my channel where I dissect it a bit and talk about it. I just thought it was a cool thing. I've talked about it before, but I don't recall dedicating an entire video to it. So there's a video on my channel tomorrow where I just kind of, you know, reiterate a bit what I talked about on the podcast with Frank and Darren yesterday, and just kind of give it life on my channel. And I think it's I'll save it for the video tomorrow, but I totally agree 100%. Let me see here. David Coe sends in $4.99, says, Tony, I am impressed by your ability to avoid trailers to movies you want to see. How do you have such good self-control? Drugs. No. Drugs. Tony? No, I think after Halloween 2018, that's when I made the conscious decision to say, you know what, going forward for movies that I really want to see, like absolutely want to see, like Halloween Ends and Scream, I'll watch the teaser and that's it. I won't go to any YouTube videos. I won't read any stories. I'll go into it as blindly as I possibly could. And I think that's why I enjoy Halloween Kills a lot more than say maybe Dave. I can't say that's 100%, but because I had no expectations, I didn't guess, I didn't think, I didn't, you know, look at a trailer and go, oh, what's going on here? And what, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't already set myself up for disappointment, which is what happened to me in 2018, because I overanalyzed the trailers that were coming out. I overanalyzed all the stories on what could happen. So I basically already had a list of things in my mind that had to happen in the 2018 film that didn't happen. That didn't even come close. Right. You know, and I think when you do that to yourself, that's where the disappointment that's where I think a lot of disappointment for movies with fans come into place, because you want to get as much information as you possibly can before the movie comes out. And I get it, because you're excited. But when you start setting expectations and you start thinking about like, well, this has got to happen. Well, this has got to happen. Well, this has got to happen. And if it doesn't happen, you're going to be disappointed.
Right.
It's just, that's inevitable. So you're, you know, going into a movie with absolutely little knowledge to none and just kicking your feet up and going, okay, let's see what you got. I find that to be more enjoyable now. And I'm doing, not even just with Halloween and Scream, I'm doing that with a lot of movies that I'm, you know, like with Top Gun Maverick, is that coming out in the middle of this year or the end of the year? They keep moving that fucking date on.
I think it was the summer, but I can't remember now.
All right. So whenever that comes out, you know, I've seen the trailer. I've seen what I wanted to see. I'm not going to see anymore. He's got a big year this year. Doesn't he have a Mission Impossible?
I think he's got Mission Impossible this year too. Yeah.
It's a Tom Cruise kind of year. All
it's
right.
a Tommy kind of year.
Yeah, it is. Is it? And I think he's
a Scientology kind of year.
I don't know if it's definite, but I think he might even be in Doctor Strange. I think he's playing like a multiverse version of Iron Man or something. I don't know if that's been confirmed.
Scientology is happy.
Yeah, so Cruise is having a good year this year, but I think, you know, with most movies that I'm definitely looking forward to seeing going forward, I think that's going to be my approach from now on. It doesn't matter what the movie is. Once I get a taste for the trailer, that's it. And I'm not going to go back to it. I'm not going to watch YouTube videos. It's not saying that I don't want to support content creators or whatnot. I get it. But 90% of the time, like, you know, some of the guys out there who do Halloween videos, it's what if scenarios, you know, on what's going to happen in a movie. Now, when Dave and I are doing what if scenarios, these are movies that are already established. You know what I mean? We're not trying to go to a movie that we haven't seen yet, and it's for fun. So I think that's a little bit easier to do than, you know, looking at Halloween Ends and go, okay, well, what do I want to have happen in Halloween Ends? Well, you know what? The only thing on my list is I want to see Laurie die. That's it. If I get that, you know, if I don't get that, I won't be surprised. But anything else, it's fair play. You know, and that's it. I'll see the teaser again for that when probably comes out midsummer, you think, right? We're going to get a teaser. If it's coming out in October, I got to believe we're going to have a teaser by the summer.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah. I would say that, you know, I think what helps Tony too is that he's not on social media other than Instagram.
That's it.
So, you know, people have to understand that it actually really isn't hard. Well, maybe it is for some. For me, it's not hard to not watch a trailer. Now, I always watch trailers because my spoiler threshold is very high. So what I consider a spoiler, it takes a lot to spoil a movie for me. I mean, a lot. I can even know certain characters who die and I don't feel spoiled, depending on who the characters are and all that kind of stuff. So I tend to watch them, no big deal. But I think for a lot of people, what is difficult is not just not watching trailers, but it's the fact that they're so connected on social media. They're on Facebook, they're on Twitter, they're on Instagram, they're on TikTok, they're on Twitch, whatever, right. You name it, they're there, and they cannot help them. And they're part of all sorts of horror groups and this group and that group. And that's why when the Halloween Kills premiere happened in October, I did a video. I don't know if you guys remember this, but I did a video telling everybody, listen, if you're serious, because, you know, I hear people talking about it all the time. Oh, I don't want to be spoiled. I might go dark. I might go dark on social media, just to let you guys know. And they're not. And all of a sudden they're talking about shit like that. But if you're fucking serious about this and you're dead serious about not knowing anything, well, then you have to put your money where your mouth is. And what I mean by that, obviously not literally your money where your mouth is, but, you know, it's a figure of speech, right? Is that, okay, well then go dark. Then you can actually mute page. You don't have to leave the group. You don't have to, you know, leave your friends or anything, but you can go and you can mute certain people who talk a lot. You can mute certain pages that you're a part of for like 30 days or whatever. And you don't have to, it doesn't have to be for 30 days. You can go and visit the page and break that, I believe, whenever you want within that time frame. But you can mute and do the best you can to avoid certain areas on social media, certain pages, certain people, if you don't want to literally not, you know, look at social media altogether. The problem is most people can't fucking help themselves. And they say they're going to do it. They want to do it. I believe they want to do it, but they can't because it's crack to them. It is crack. And as soon as they realize that the teaser is out there or the premiere has happened and the reviews are coming in or whatever the case is, they can't help themselves. They're like, oh God, I don't want to. I'm just going to look at it. And that's what ends up happening, right? And you have no one to blame but yourself. You literally can mute certain accounts in Facebook groups if that are known to maybe talk about a lot of stuff. You can do that. You can do it. But I think what really is tough for people is just how connected everybody is. You know, you're connected on multiple groups and multiple pages and multiple social media platforms and all that kind of stuff, and you just can't. I believe that they mean well and that they don't want. I don't want to know, but they are so addicted to the euphoria of social media and to the endorphins that just, you know, make you feel. What's that chemical makes you feel good? Not endorphins do too. But yeah, it is. But there's something else that it chat room probably let me know. Anyway, they're so addicted to it that they just can't help themselves. And so they end up getting spoiled. And then they're like, oh, what a go. And then they blame the other person. Oh, you shouldn't have done that. No, you should have muted the page for 30 days. It's just the way it works. It's the way it works. Anyway, I shouldn't have to do that. Like, well, but that's the reality.
Well, it's like you said, that's the reason why I only have Instagram, and I'm down to really only one main account. I have my business account, but that's intended for clients only. And that's it. I don't really follow a lot. I follow who I want to follow, and that's it. And most of the people that I follow I'm not going to get spoiled on anything. And that's obviously done deliberately because I'm not spending my days. This is really the longest that I spend on social media is doing this stream with you on YouTube.
I get it.
But I really do try to not spend that much time on YouTube or not on social media. I'm
laughing because I'm seeing people serotonin, dopamine, benzos, crank. It's dopamine, right? So you get a hit of dopamine when you get like a like, or it's that thing that makes you feel good, right? A like, a smile, a share, whatever. And people are addicted to social. They are. I mean, it's remarkable. And
cocaine.
And crack, but I just think I think that is that might even be more of the issue. It's not that if social media didn't exist, well, you wouldn't, or like, I don't think if Facebook didn't exist and Twitter didn't exist and Instagram didn't exist, I think it would be easier for people to avoid watching a trailer on YouTube because you have to seek it out. In order to watch the trailer, you have to seek it out. So that's easy to avoid. But the problem is not YouTube. The problem is Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, where the groups you're a part of. And then somebody throws up an image or somebody makes a statement and you happen to be scrolling and see it. And you're like, man. And that's why I tell people, bite the bullet, mute the groups and the pages for 30 days. And it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have to be 30 days, but I think that's the only option they give. And then I think once you visit the page again, it breaks that. And now you're back. So just mute it for 30 days, take a week away, and then come back. Do that. Because if you don't do it, you have no one to blame but yourself at the end of the day. This is just the reality of social media and the free flow of information. It is nearly impossible to, to herd and to be security for thousands of people. You're going to get some noob that's going to come in there and go, hey, look, it's like, you know what I mean? Anyway, that's how I feel about it, but it's a good question. Let me see here.
Great question.
Yeah. Booster Seat sends in $5, says, with Kyle Richards in ends, in HNs, I thought that said hens for a minute. Well, it does say hens, but I think I know what you mean. She easily replaces Jamie Lloyd Danielle. I'd like to have Lindsay Wallace replace Karen as daughter figure to Lori. Well, a daughter figure to Lori. I don't think you're going to get all that in Halloween Ends. I think that had to have been something that would have had to have been established earlier so you can nurture that relationship over several films. I think to do that in Halloween Ends, it would feel very shoehorned in, very like all of a sudden, that there's this relationship that's building between her and Jamie. But, if they had nurtured that earlier, maybe, I don't know. Might have been interesting. Fascinating stuff. Tony, what do you think?
I didn't even hear you.
Oh,
I totally dozed off there for a minute.
With Kyle Richards in Halloween Ends, she easily replaces Jamie Lloyd and Danielle. I'd like to have Lindsay Wallace replace Karen as daughter figure to Lori. And I'm saying that'd be cool, but I think it's a little, we only have one film left, so I think that's, not likely to happen. Although, you never know.
But the time with the time lapse or in there 4 years going by, they might, maybe she's living with them or, whatever, who knows? Who knows what they're going to do? I'm still curious to know where the fuck Michael's going to be for 4 fucking years.
I know.
That's got me going. Okay. What is he just going to, rake his lawn, cut his grass, fucking, no.
No, he's working.
Year.
He's a Walmart.
Not this year.
He's actually a Walmart greeter.
Yeah.
Reese Wilson sends in $14.99. Thank you, Reese. Great to see you there. After Halloween ends and after a 10-year break, I'd love to see a Halloween film set in the 30s, 40s, or 50s. Have it in black and white because I think Michael Myers would look so good in that format. Ooh, I'd be open to something like that.
I said Yeah, that's one of the things that I said that I was working on, and probably will be the last project that I'm doing for photos, is a period piece. It's Halloween. It's a Halloween period piece. I announced that on Instagram a while back, and I might have announced it on here. I don't know, because I got the idea from a Batman story that was set in the 20s. And they did it like as if like it was in real world, and it was done so well that I started to think like, what would work? Like, and what decade would work for Michael? And I thought like, you know what? The 50s would work.
Yeah.
And
I saw those photos you've been doing.
And I made some changes. I made some drastic changes, especially like with the Judith character and with Michael and whatnot, to make it fit, again, because we're not doing the typical story that we know from the 78 film. We're saying this is real world. Like, this is for real. This is what happened for real. So there were some things that I changed, and that's going to be, I think we're going to try to do it this summer or this fall.
Very cool.
I want to get it right. I want to get the timing right. That will probably be my last project that I do for horror photos, because I'm just drained from.
Well, and it costs a lot of money too.
It does.
Costs a lot of money. That's cool, Reese. I like that. Reese Wilson? I like that, Reese. JS Trucking and Guitar sends in $5. Any new updates on Dylan's new nightmare? I haven't seen anything since the initial announcements. Wow, since the initial announcements. Well, I encourage you to seek out, if you are on Facebook, seek out the Dylan's New Nightmare Facebook page. There's updates there all the time. Okay, well, again, we've been in a holding pattern for, the better part of this whole thing. It's no secret that I am a large part of that, of the reason, not on purpose, obviously, but I am here in Toronto, Canada. The rest of the cast and crew are in the States, are American. And of course, I would have to be going down to Phoenix for it to happen. And the border issues right now are very, very tricky with the rise of Omicron right now and how easily everybody is getting and stuff. It's just really bad timing. That really is what it is. And me being Canadian,
yeah, your country's like a fucking prison, man.
Well, no. It's what I have to think about too is that being Canadian, I have to think about, when I go to the States, I got to think about health insurance. I mean, I have to think about health insurance anyway, but it's a lot trickier, right? I'm not an American just crossing a state. I'm a Canadian coming into another country, and I got to think about those things. And you got
to get your shots.
Yeah, it's different. It's different circumstances about that. With what that all entails and all that kind of stuff, and all the different sort of legalities around that. And nobody wants to catch this thing, obviously. And so it's still there. Cecil has all the money that he raised via the campaign. It's in a bank. It's sitting there waiting to be used. And I think he's used already some of it, of course, with the creation of the Freddy outfits and all that kind of stuff, the pre-production that he's done, some of it anyway. We're just we're hoping that this is the year that things can settle down and we can get moving. But we'll see. We'll see. It's a good question. But if you go to the Dylan's New Nightmare Facebook page, you can check that out there, because I know he posts updates there. Happy Sanjo sends in $5, says, as a hypothetical, if you could have afforded the cost of the film to shoot It's Me, Billy, would you have? Is that a tone or vibe that you would have liked? I see. And then the next one is to shoot It's Me, Billy on 16 or 35 millimeter. If we could afforded it, maybe. I don't think it was necessary to shoot especially Billy on film,
given the time frame that you, or the period that you're set in is modern,
right? And I mean, it might have been fun, but it's a lot of work, and film costs a lot of money, and there's the changing over of the reels and things. Got to develop the film as well, and then you likely have to digitize it, or
because you weren't going to show it in a theater, you were doing
that's it. Well, yeah, and we weren't gonna. I wasn't gonna go into a studio and actually cut the film, So literally cut the film, which is what they used to do back in the day. I mean, literally, actually cut the film and piece it together. Yeah. I did that in college with three short films I shot on 16 millimeter. So I think I don't know if they might not do that exactly thing right now. That's sort of an old thing, but I'm going to say probably not. We probably would have allocated the extra funds to something else. Maybe had an extra day to shoot, use that extra money to maybe, depending on how much it is, let's say we had an extra $10,000 or something. I mean, that would have been huge. I mean, we probably could have shot like an extra, I'm trying to think of how much, well, maybe an extra, I don't know. Maybe an extra day. That might have given us an extra day, maybe. I don't know about 2 days. Depends. Because I'm thinking about catering and, of course, everybody's salaries and things like that. The crew, myself and Bruce did it for free, but obviously the crew was paid. And then the location and insurance and all that. It may have given us an extra day. Or put it towards maybe, an extra scene, right? Maybe there was an extra scene we could have shot and had more time with or whatever. Or it probably would have been best allocated to that. Just more time to shoot, I would say. So yeah, maybe like an extra day or something rather than just shooting on 16 or 35. I mean, it would have been cool, sure. Aesthetically, but I don't think it was necessary. I would have used it for something else, I think. And then Brandon Collins says, can John sends in $2. Thank you. Can John reclaim copyright on Halloween like Wes did? I think is what you're trying to say there. I don't know. I don't think so.
Remember, it's not just him that wrote it. Deborah Hill wrote it with him too.
Right. Well, she's dead now, obviously, as you know. I would say that
her estate, you know what I mean? Her family might say like, hey, wait a second, we got the rights too.
I believe that John and Deborah, when they sold the rights in the early 80s or in the 80s, I believe it was like a one and done. Now, obviously, anytime they make a Halloween movie, John gets a piece of it.
Does her family still get a cut?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I'm wondering if they're like her family gets a percentage.
Maybe
like John would. You would think.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Because I got to believe up to her death with all the sequels, she must have been getting something.
I would imagine so. So. It depends on what was negotiated. But I would say that I don't think it's the same thing. I don't know what the Craven estate, I don't know what happened there. The studios are involved as well. And I'm not sure. I'm going to say no. And I'm going to tell you, and be honest with you, I don't think Carpenter wants it. I don't think he gives a fuck. I don't think he cares. I really don't think he cares. And I think even if it came back to him, I think he would have just sold it off again. I don't think he would have done anything with it. I think he would have been like, well, I don't want to do anything with this. I'm going to sell. Who wants this? Hey, it's come back to me. Who wants it? And then there'd be a bidding war to John Carpenter because he loves making money. He would probably have sold it off to somebody else. So I don't think, even if it did go back to him, I don't think you would see like, John Carpenter directing or something like that. If there was no such thing to, as what they did with Blumhouse. So I don't think so. I don't think so. Because when Dimension lost it, when Universal purged from Dimension, I'd have to brush up on that, what happened there. Because I don't think that went back to Carpenter after that and when it ended up at Universal and Blumhouse. So, because it was Jason Blum that coerced Carpenter to come on board, right? So, yeah. I don't think he'd want anything. Carpenter doesn't see, again, this is a perfect example. Carpenter doesn't give a shit about Halloween in the same ways that the fans do. The fans love Halloween. They praise him as the godfather of Halloween, even though really some people say it's Mustafa Akkad. I get that. I tend to figure that who doesn't get the credit he deserves is Irwin Yablans as well. When you read up about, it's really, Halloween exists really because of Irwin at the end of the day. He's the one that came up with the idea. He's the one that came up with the idea to set it on Halloween. He was the one that came up with the idea to call it Halloween. And he was the one that came up with the idea to hire John Carpenter. So just saying, yes, Mustafa Akkad was there to finance, but if it wasn't for Irwin Yablans, there may not be a movie. And obviously him and Carpenter had a huge falling out there. But yeah, he doesn't care. He just doesn't care maybe he cares a little. Well, he cares as much as he gets paid. right? As long as he gets paid, he cares. And he's not going to be a total dick if you tell him, oh, John Carpenter, I love Halloween. I love you so much. He's going to say, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Oh, well, isn't that nice? Thank you.
No, he's going to be a dick.
Well, no, but I just mean, he's going to say thank you, like whatever, but he doesn't care. He doesn't care. He really
doesn't.
Okay, is that all the... Oh, wait, no. Is that all the Super Chats? Let me just check here. I think that might be all the Super Chats that came in. Let me just double check here. Oh, no, we got Booster Seat. Gets one in there. Sends in $2. Thank you, Booster Seat. Says, any idea what the Indiegogo goal would be for IMDb 2?
It's me, Billy 2.
It's me, Billy 2. Well...
100,000.
No, well, that might be. I don't know, because obviously the script hasn't been written. We have, we've talked about ideas and scenes, and obviously we've talked about the direction for which we wanted it to go, because we did have a direction to go. And we've written some things down, but I would say it would probably be at least 60,000, if not more, maybe 80, 90,000. Yeah, I could see that. When you have to factor in all the things that have to come into play and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it would probably be at least another 60,000, if not a little more, probably between 60 and 100,000, probably. I don't know. I'm not sure. It depends on what the script ends up being and what's all involved and what we've written in there that we need to tell our story. So, yeah, it depends. It's expensive making a movie, man. It really is. When you want to make a real film, it's expensive, and you got to think about all those things. I mean, yeah, I understand that there are independent movies that are shot for nothing at all and that look really good and all that for sure. But we went about it, we're renting from a professional, distribution house, and we're hiring a professional DP and we're hiring, professional actors and crew and production insurance and, people that do this for a living in the Canadian film industry. So that's why we weren't hiring our friends, right? We were hiring legit pros and that costs money, and then renting out the location. I mean, we had to pay for that. We had to pay a lot for that. It wasn't cheap. It wasn't cheap, right?
Making movies ain't cheap.
No, it's not, and then there's the catering. I mean, we were feeding 17 people 3 meals a day for 7 days. That's thousands of dollars. I would have just
made them PB&J and that's it.
Well, we were going to make them eat the snow. I mean, really, that's what we were going to do. We were going to line them up outside and we were going to make them eat the snow and all that kind of stuff.
There you go.
But yeah, it would cost probably at least what the first one cost, if not more, depending on what the production, what is all involved in the production. JS Tracking and Guitar sends in $5, says, did you watch the extended cut of H Kills? I didn't watch the cut all the way through. I just watched what they added on YouTube, and it doesn't make the movie better for me. It's just extra stuff. I don't know. Tony, have you done that yet?
No, I bought it, but I've seen the ending where the phone call and all that stuff. But
did you find that really kind of
yeah, it didn't like on paper, it sounds great.
It does. Yeah.
But I think because there was no cut to shot to Michael.
Right.
I think had there been a cut, like in the original, shot to Michael, picking up the phone. I think if there was a cut to shot to Michael on the phone breathing, that would have added more to the scene. But when I saw it, I was like, oh, well, all right, whatever. Like, that's pretty much like, I didn't care.
Yeah.
Obviously it makes sense to why they're not using it, because the final part to this new trilogy is 4 years in the future.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense to keep that. Cause like, to me, although at the same time, it doesn't necessarily, her walking out of the hospital doesn't indicate that the night's still going on. I mean, she's just walking out of the hospital.
No, it's true. It's
in
true.
Slow
but
motion. So
where's she going? Right. I mean,
where is she going? Right.
You'd have to show
like,
somewhere she went.
Where is she going?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I haven't watched it from start to finish. Yeah, I mean, I've got it, but
I have no
I've
interest.
watched it so much because we had it early. We had it on Peacock that I was like, all right, I'm good. I'll watch it again like in October this year.
Yeah.
When we get closer to ends coming out, it's probably when I'll revisit it.
Yeah. It didn't do much for me. Again, I didn't watch it all the way through with the extra stuff. I just watched them sort of isolated on their own off of YouTube, and it didn't do much for me. I mean, it's really anticlimactic anyway. It doesn't feel like they're promoting it like an alternate ending or extended end. It's like, it's the same ending that just was cut short. That's it. I mean, it would be like, anyways, it didn't do much for me. Okay, so I think I've got all the super chats. Our poll, which has been up for over an hour now, 233 votes. Would you have liked the bandaged mask all the way through Halloween 4? 65% of people say yes. 35% of people say no. So you know what? I'm surprised it's actually that close.
I am. I'm surprised that many people were on board with the idea. I honestly didn't think that many people would be on board with seeing just the bandage Michael through all the way through 4.
Yeah.
So that's cool. That's hey, people are thinking outside the box and having fun with it.
Exactly.
Because that's what these shows are all about.
That's it. I think it would have been fun
until the comment section comes after we post the video and people start yelling at us. How could you do that? It's sacrilegious.
It's true. That's true. You guys suck. You suck,
we
man.
Suck.
No. This is what I imagine. Anytime somebody, like a troll,
better without Tony. Yeah,
whenever, you Tony, Tony. Listen, Tony is under contract for 38 years. He gets $17 million a season here on Two Dudes.
Episode.
Well, that is true. That is true. Well, I didn't want to, it is. He gets $17 million an episode. He's under contract for 38 years. I mean, it's just the way it is. It's the way it is. There's nothing we can do.
I'm here to the end.
Here to the end. I know whenever I see somebody sort of, troll or be insulting to either me or you, or whether it's me on my other videos, this is what I hear when I'm reading it. No. And I'm like, what is this? I don't even know what this is. No. It's all right, whatever.
I will say this, Jeff Gordon, who's I don't know if you know who that is. He's a NASCAR driver.
I don't.
You don't? Like,
no,
are
I
you
don't
being
know.
serious?
Yeah, no, I don't know who he is.
Oh, okay. No, he was a popular NASCAR driver.
Oh, okay. All right, cool.
And he came up at a time when Dale Earnhardt, I'm sure you've heard that name.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Who Dale Earnhart pretty much was the man. He was, he was one of my favorite drivers as well too.
Right.
When Gordon came in, he was hot. I mean, he was winning races. And by the end of I think it was his first season, like the fans had kind of started to turn on him because him and Earnhardt were fighting for championship points.
Right.
And I think it was an old interview. And he's like, they asked him the question, do you like being cheered or do you like being booed? And he said, honestly, it's great to be cheered, but it's even better to be booed. You know what I mean? Like when you've got a fan base like that, like it's easy to get people to like you.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like anybody can just be like, oh, that's a cool dude. We like him. We're going to cheer him on. But it's another thing to get people to boo you. Well, and when I came across that video here not too long ago, I said, that's an interesting way to look at online people who, social media and people don't like you. Like, I know the majority of the people who watch us enjoy the show.
Like 98%.
Right. But it's actually, I find it rather intriguing now that there's actually people out there who dislike me. And I'm like, that's kind of cool. Like,
it's great.
I've driven someone to a point who never even met me, but they dislike me.
Yeah, so like, it's true. Right, well, it's
I'm going to embrace that.
It's like my late father said. And if anybody would know, it would be him. He was a journalist and a columnist, so he's coming at it from a writing perspective. Now, well, though he was on TV, he had several TV shows, sports shows that he hosted over the years here in Toronto and in Ottawa and things like that. But when he told me this, he was coming at it from a writing perspective, and he says, the question is not whether they like you or hate you. The question is, are they reading you? And people, whether they liked Earl McRae or hated Earl McRae, they read Earl McRae. And when they knew Earl McRae's column was going to be in the paper, you love to hate him. And then one day he could make you cry, and the next day he could piss you off, or whatever the case is. That's what it's all about. You can't worry. You can't do this kind of thing. You can't jump online, put yourself out there, host a show or whatever it is, acting, writing, directing, whatever, some sort of public, where you're interacting with the public, and worry about whether people like you. No, I don't care whether you like me or not. I could not care less, because I can't do my job, which my job here is, if I'm always worried, because then I start steering and start, pandering to try and get people to like me. If you like me, that's awesome. If you don't like me, that's okay too. You don't know me. What you know is this persona, Dave McRae, here on the channel. This is all you know. You don't know me outside of here. You may think you do. And I'm not saying that this isn't like I become a completely different person. But, the point I'm making, and the point that Tony is making, is that at the end of the day, it doesn't
Do you want to be the hero, or do you want to live long enough to become the villain?
Right. But
playing on words there. I'm playing on the line. I know that's not the line.
Of course. But this is whenever you put, of course, listen, nobody wants people to dislike them or hate them, but at the end of the day, it's out of our control. And so I get on here, whether it's with this show or whether it's on my channel, and put myself out there and do my thing, and I say how I feel, and I give you some insights, and I talk about whatever it is I'm talking about. And if you like it, great. If you don't. When I hit stop, or when I don't think about it afterwards. I don't care about it, because I have very thick skin to begin with, so that helps. But also, I don't want to get caught up in the drama. I'm nearly 43 years old. 43 years old. I don't give a shit about your high school drama. Okay? With respect. Well, I don't care about what she said and he said and he said. I don't care. It doesn't, if you don't like me and you want to go, Dave McRae's a fucking dick. Okay, that's great. Okay, that's how you feel.
Yeah, I mean,
that's fine.
I think because I'm not going to give people long-winded answers on why I don't like something. If I don't like a certain character, or if I like another character over someone else, it's the way it is. If I like Allison over Lori in the Halloween Final Girls, it's just is. I'm not going to sit here, like you said, I'm not going to sit here and give a high school 15-minute answer and dissect my reasons why. I don't. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. I think for me,
and people can't. It's weird that people can't just accept it. You know what I mean? Like they just can't go, well, okay, I get, no, that's not a good enough answer.
It's whoa. It's very tribal. It's very tribal. And in the sense that if you don't, well, then what you can't, I can't.
That doesn't make sense. I don't understand.
How can you do that?
How can you do that?
It's very foreign to a lot of people. For me, I know very early on when I jumped on here in 2017, I know in the big lead up to 2018, and maybe even still to this day, I know that for some people, what has rubbed them the wrong way with me is how I come across, or how I can come across. And because I'm an actor, see, that's one thing that people have to remember too, if you're not familiar with me, is that I was an actor, I was a performer long before I was on YouTube. I mean, I've been working in the entertainment industry for a very long time. So, and I haven't, that's part of my personality, to be very extroverted and crazy and theatrical. I've always been that way. I come from that kind of a family. So I'm not on here doing that. That's just who I am. And I think for some people, if you're not like that, or if you don't know me, it could be perceived as maybe pretentious or condescending or arrogant, which is not the case at all. When I get really theatrical and I'm like, it's dog shit, or you son of it. I've talked about this before. And I think the longer you watch me, I think people get it. They start to understand, oh, I get what he's doing. It's not that I'm not being truthful with how I feel, but I'm making a show of it. I'm here to entertain. I'm giving you truth of how I feel, but I'm here to entertain you as well. I'm being theatrical and crazy with the voices and the Dave and all this kind of stuff. That's who I am, right? That's who I am. And I'm trying to make it fun. And I think people are starting to, people that maybe I rub the wrong way, they're starting to go, I think I know. I think I know what he's doing. He's just having fun. He's being silly. He's being, you know what I mean? And that's, I think for me, that took, maybe for some people that took a while to get used to and realize, oh no, I'm really not the dick you think I am. I'm just putting on a show. I'm putting on a show.
I've done a 180 because like back in the day, and you even know this, I was guilty of it. I would engage with everybody. You know what I mean?
I thought you were going to say, I hated you, Dave. No.
I would, even in the comments section, I would be, very engaging. And I realized like, now I'm selective. If you're worth my time to engage in a conversation with you, I will engage. But for the most part now, and going on close to almost a full year of that, of just really saying, you know what, if someone's going to say something, let them say it. If they're going to send me a message, let them send me a message. I'm not going to respond. You're not worth my time. You're not worth the energy. I'm not going to, no. But if I think it's worth it, you know what I mean? Then I will, engage, but I'm very selective now because I don't care. And I know that sounds dickish, but I don't care. It took me a while to get to that point, but I think you have to I think you need to have like that boundary and like, and be like, what?
And I think
if you're going to give your opinion, there's your opinion. Go ahead, leave it. There's nothing I can do about it because I'm not going to be able to change your opinion.
Yeah. And I couldn't agree more. And I think too, and again, this sounds like, I'm probably going to sound a little pretentious when I say this, and I don't mean to. And I say it generally speaking, but I think maybe our age has something to do with it too.
Not
that there's not 50-year-olds on YouTube who engage in this shit, and not that there's not 25-year-olds who don't, right? I'm speaking generally, but I think maybe if you grew up in the digital world and you grew up not knowing anything else, and you can get real sort of obsessed and locked into the comment sections and the likes and the this and all that kind of stuff. Whereas I think maybe if you're older, you see the comment and you're like, oh, that's kind of mean. Oh, okay, well, whatever. And you don't really get locked into that. And because, and again, I'm speaking generally, obviously there are people that our age that do. But for me, I just, you can't. I mean, it's not real. This is fake. The internet isn't real. It's like we're just having fun and we're talking and we're trying to entertain our audiences. That's what I try to do on here. Is I try to give information, give my insights and thoughts, and entertain. And listen, there are some people that are going to watch me and that really like my style. And there are going to be a lot of people that don't. There are people that give this. There are other channels that are more calmer and that aren't theatrical, that give the same information that I do. And maybe and you take that in more because maybe you resonate with that more, right? It's different strokes for different folks, different flavors of ice cream for everybody. And I couldn't come on here and not be crazy. I'm going, I can't do that. I can't not do that. It's part of who I am. So
if you're tripping on acid,
well, there you go, right? But no, you're right. And I've noticed that about you too. Yeah. You're very whatever now. Cause it's just like,
now it's just like, whatever, dude. Like if you hate me, you're going to hate me and you're going to, leave your comment, send me a message, and you're going to get ignored. I mean, because you're not worth my time anymore. You're just, I know that sounds cocky. I know that sounds arrogant, but it's like you said, we're going to be 43 years old this year. I'm not investing an ounce of energy into any of that shit no more because I'm
exactly. And if I was, I mean, there are just certain people that are like that, that are theatrical and that's who I am. I mean, that's how I've always been, is like that, I mean, so I bring it to YouTube, It's the way it is.
Yeah, bring it to YouTube.
Bring it to YouTube. Matthew Fresh says, Dave is a hologram. Yeah, that's right. I'm not real. I'm not real. Not real.
This is not real.
No, but to say that though, 99% of the people that watch us are fantastic. The comments are amazing. We love you guys. We appreciate all the positive comments and the things you have to say. And the engagement, that's what we love the most, is the engagement in the chat room, the engagement in the community, in the comments section below, in the community section here on my page. as well. But just seeing that engagement and seeing you guys build the community and talk, it's really cool. It's really awesome to see. And we really appreciate it, because doing these shows is not easy. You expend a lot of energy, preparing the show, getting on, doing all this, and it's cool stuff, man. It's really cool to see what we've,
good shit,
what we've built here. Yeah, exactly. Anyways, I guess we should probably get going. We should probably get going now, I think.
I'm a fan.
Oh, wrong one. I meant to hit.
Right one.
Maybe that was the right one. Maybe that was the right one. I meant to hit this one here. Oh, that's going to do it for episode 138 of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. Thank you to our amazing moderators, Frank Riker, Tabitha Short, Darren Sands, Chris Baber. You guys are amazing. Thank you to all the Super Chat questions that came in today. And of course, some of the non-Super Chat questions. Again, we were not able to get to some of those for obvious reasons, but there's always next week, of course. You are amazing. Comment below and let Tony and I know what you think of the bandaged Michael Myers. Do you want to say, let's end the poll here. 246 people responded. 246 people responded. And the final results are
65% yes.
65% yes, 34% no out of 246 people. Amazing. Comment below and let Tony and I know what you think and where that bandage scenario could have gone. That would be interesting to see. Would be interesting to see 100%. Tony, any last things you want to say?
No, this was good. See you guys next week.
Yeah, this is a great stream. Really, really, really cool stream. Have a great rest of your week. Stay safe out there. Try not to catch the Transformer variant. And we will talk to you guys soon. All righty. Cheers.